Coming up on episode 99 of Creative Writing, I'm talking all about how to get the most out of a conference, live event, or virtual summit.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light. These restless thoughts have kept me up again tonight.
Hello and welcome to Creative Writing. This is the podcast for you, writers, bloggers, and creatives who want to build an online platform without being, say it with me, smarmy. I'm your host, Kirsten Oliphant, and I'm so glad to be here. Although I will confess, this was one of those weeks where I was like, do I have to record a podcast? I'm tired. Mostly because I'm running the Profitable Blogging Summit this week, which if you are not signed up, there are still a few days left. It's ending on April, let's see, what is today? 23rd, 26th. So you'll want to go to creativewriting.com/PBS17 for Profitable Blogging Summit 17 to register for that, to not miss the next couple of days. Yes, so I'm going to circle back, but that's kind of inspiring what I want to talk about tonight, which is how to get the most out of a conference or other live event or virtual summit, because I also just got back from the Mediavine conference. So I want to talk all about that for you. Before we do, a couple of quick things. I don't want to take up a lot of time at the beginning. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been shorter on these intros because for me, I like personality in podcasts, but I also get very turned off by rambling. And especially if it's like co-hosts and they just kind of ramble for a while. If you're new to a podcast, it's really hard to break in. So, hey, new listeners, welcome. This is for you. I'm not going to ramble too much here. So I wanted to remind you guys, it's episode 99. By episode 100, I am going to be closing down the survey that I'm doing, which a lot of you have responded to. And it's really been eye-opening for me to see what it is that you want, what your goals are for the year. And I think it's really going to help me kind of shape what I do next. So if you want to take that survey, you can go to creativewriting.com/2017 survey. And I'm going to draw a winner using a randomizer to get free coaching from me. So one of you guys is going to win a 45-minute coaching session with me. So that's a good reason to go do it. Plus, knowing what you guys want helps me kind of know what to create around that and how to plan my time for the rest of the year. One more quick thing too. Next week, I'm going to announce the winner for the review contest. And it's funny because you guys are leaving reviews, but you're still not sending me. I've gotten a few screenshots. If you do not send me a screenshot of your review on iTunes, you will not be entered because I'm not going to go through all of them and they have weird names. There's no emails attached. Yes, if you want to enter, send me a screenshot. You can tweet it at me or email. A few of you guys have done this, but it's kind of cool because the entry is really low because a lot of you guys are like, nah, I'm good. I'll just leave a review and not send you a message, which is cool, but you're going to win entrance to my courses and stuff. It's pretty cool. Go do that. Leave a review on iTunes. And finally, I want to thank our sponsor for this month and actually a couple more weeks to go. I should have a calendar in front of me, but I don't. But it's Pop-Up Ally, which is made by Ambition Ally. And just a quick note, I've been talking about some of the features of Pop-Up Ally Pro and why I use it, why I love it. But one of the things I love about this company as well is just the integrity that they have. And I'm super excited because Natalie Lussier, who is the founder of Pop-Up Ally and Ambition Ally, is actually going to come on the podcast, you guys. So I have some really great questions for her. And if you have any, let me know. So shoot me an email and I can ask them to her. But I am over and over impressed with how they run their business. I know one of you guys tried out Pop-Up Ally and emailed me just to talk about the customer service and how great it was. And I know for me, there was a time when I changed something and I messed something up on my end and like there was just this black screen. And so I emailed them and right away they got back to me and they got somebody on my site who fixed everything and told me what happened and said that they were going to send in a ticket to make sure that that bug that happened, because I screwed it up, but it was some kind of bug in the system, I guess I triggered, and they went to fix it, but they were just as nice as could be and are really helpful with setting everything up. And I appreciate that about a company, because if you've ever worked with a company, I don't want to name names, but right now I'm having some other issues with another company and they just won't get back to me. And I'm about to leave because I have to get some stuff working and it's not working. And I'm like, I can't wait for 4 and 5 days. I can't wait for you to decide you have time to fix this very pressing problem. So just if you're interested in looking at pop-ups or looking at course software, they have, and even they have some webinar software for their sites as well. They have really great things that you can use, and they have a free version of Pop-Up Ally. I would highly recommend Pop-Up Ally Pro for a couple of reasons because the extra features, but if you want to check it out and see all the options, you can go to ambitionally.com/Kirsten to learn more. Okay, this was a kind of a longer intro. I said shorter, but 5 minutes in, here we go. I want to talk about how you can get the most out of conferences, live events, and summits. Now, I don't know how many of you guys are going to these, but I will say I'm going to go back in time to 2013. So 4 years ago, I was in a completely different place. I had been blogging for, 6 years, no, more like 8 years actually, but 6 years. I guess I started, my very first blog was just pictures. I didn't write very much, just pictures of what Rob and I were up to. We had no kids, but we were kind of on this adventure as I was in grad school. I was 2 years away from family and friends. And we just took pictures of the things we did. I tried out for American Idol and had a post on there. I thought that I did write about what that was like. And then I accidentally deleted the whole blog, you guys. So if you're like, I want to read about that. Yeah, you can't because I deleted my own blog. Don't do that. So after that, I started, I still hate pickles.com, which is not up anymore either. If you listen to my episode, I think it was 2 episodes ago about images and being legal with your images, I think it was episode 97. I realized that probably back when I started in 2007, I probably did take images right off of Google, which you can't do. And I was like, I don't have time right now to go through that, but this is becoming like really a big thing where photographers are suing. So I just took that whole blog offline. It's still in draft. I did not delete it this time. Lesson learned. And I honestly would like to print that out because in a lot of ways, it's sort of like a big baby book for, the first couple of years that I had kids. And then I started, well, anyway, I'm telling you too much of my journey now. Let's get back to 2013. So I'd been blogging for 6 years over at I Still Hate Pickles. And I went to Blog Elevated, which is a conference I highly recommend that's here in Houston. Or actually it's been in Dallas and Galveston also, but centered here in Houston with the founders of Houston Bloggers. And it was like a light bulb turned on. And everything changed. Everything changed because I was learning what other people were doing. It was the first time I had stopped blogging in a vacuum. And I feel like people now do blog more in community. Like there's all these Facebook groups and stuff, which really were not around back then. At least not the way they are now. They were around, but not like they are now. But it really challenged me to think about what I was doing with my blog, to be intentional. And I started growing. I moved over to WordPress. I might have done it right before Blog Elevated, but I was still new to WordPress. I was working with a designer who was a friend who was working pro bono and getting my site set up and all this excitement and starting to do sponsored posts. Like I realized you could make money doing this. And so that was really the start of when I started taking it seriously. Before that, it had been a passion project and I loved that people read it. And I made a little bit of money with ads through BlogHer because somehow I got hooked in with them like the very first year they started. And so I just had their ads on my site for years. And I Still Hate Pickles and made, like $40 a month or every 2 months, just depending. It wasn't a lot, didn't have a lot of traffic either. So it was just something, and that really changed me going to that conference. And so I want to talk about the things that you can do. And I didn't always do these things intentionally, but I'll kind of circle back to that as well. Now I have been to a ton of conferences and my favorite thing to do at conferences is to actually speak. Back then, you probably couldn't have told me that I was going to be a speaker about blog conferences because I felt like I didn't know anything about blogging. And really I did, just not all the things that I know now. Like in the last 4 years, it's amazing how much I have picked up. And also I knew a lot about other things like writing. I knew a lot about we all have our own sort of expertise in the things that we bring to the table. So I had a lot of other things I was bringing to the table, but I've always loved speaking. Not always, actually. I'll take that back. I have loved speaking since I was in college. When I was really little, I liked it. And then I went through like a shy period where I got out of like every speaking engagement in high school I possibly could. Like I think I got through middle and high school only doing one oral report the whole time. And then in college, I had to start doing it. And I started working for a church and having to teach. And that really brought back up this love that I used to have, because when I was like in early elementary school for show and tell days, I would tell. Like I would literally not plan. I would just go up in front of the class and talk. So we're back to that now. That's kind of what this podcast is, with a little bit more clarity. So I wouldn't have thought, though, I would have been up there. So now when I go to conferences, it's often as a speaker, because the benefit is, one, I get to connect with people. I get to bring people back to my blog. I get to share, and I really, really, really enjoy speaking. But also it gets you usually free tickets. Sometimes your expenses are paid. Sometimes you actually get paid. A lot of times with blogging conferences, you don't, unless you're like a super famous blogger, which I'm not. But at least you're getting a free ticket and you're getting to go do those connections. So let's talk about ways that you can get the most out of things. So the first half of it, I'm going to do connections. So connecting with people, other bloggers, and then connecting with speakers. So when I left Blog Elevated the first time, I connected with a couple of other bloggers, one of them being Kelly Grant. Hey, Kelly. She's a friend now, a good friend, and she lives, I would say, nearby in Houston, but really it's like an hour from my house because Houston is so huge. But I have gotten to see her once since she moved here, or twice, maybe 3 times. But Kelly is fantastic. And Kelly and Christy Riddell, I'm trying to think who else was in it, another girl named Kathy Penny, and a few other people who I'm not sure are all still blogging. Let's see, Brenda, you're still blogging. Our little tribe kind of disappeared and died. I was trying to think who else was in it because it's been so long. But for a while, we would share questions. We would share each other's posts all the time. We would schedule things out. We were really kind of like this formal little tribe of people. And I didn't know this existed. And other people were doing it, but this was really back when this was kind of, I think, just kind of starting. And having this little group kind of helped show me what I should be doing really grew my blog. And I remember I was a paid guest poster for Kathy Penny, who is over at, I think, pennylane.com. She's changed names a couple times, but I would do guest contributions. And I remember one of the times that I gave her a recipe, she sent me a message back and was like, I'd really love a vertical image for Pinterest. And I'd been on Pinterest forever, but back then there was no training about Pinterest, right? Like I wasn't even pinning my own stuff. And I was like, whatever do you mean, Kathy? And she's like, well, Pinterest really likes vertical images. And it was like this obvious thing. Now it's so obvious, right? If you've been on Pinterest, like obviously that's how Pinterest works. But back then I had no idea. And that's all it took was that one really kind email from her to say, hey, when you're sending in these guest posts that I'm paying you for, please put a vertical image. And I did. And then I started doing vertical images and Pinterest really started to work for me. And so when you're connecting with other people, it's sometimes just the very, very little things. You never know what you're going to learn. You're going to spur each other on towards growth. And so you should always be looking for people that you can connect with. And I think it's important to connect with people at your level, people who are a couple steps ahead of you, and people who are behind you. Because I think it's good to have the freshness of people who are just starting out and you can kind of help them and you can still really learn from them as well. I've learned a lot from people who started way later than I did. And then you can have people kind of at your level because it's really great to talk about exactly where you're at. And then having people who are a few steps ahead because they can kind of help you move forward. So when you go to these events, you should be looking for that. And so for something like the Profitable Blogging Summit, we are a virtual conference. It's totally online, but we created this Facebook group and today it has exploded with people. I guess today's sessions were people's favorites or blowing people's minds because they have been commenting, and it's been amazing. And so you always want to find a way to connect. And so if something is virtual, find a way to connect. Even live conferences like the Mediavine conference, which was in person, they have a Facebook group for Mediavine, and we could talk. They had a Facebook group for attendees, so you could talk about it. Blog Elevated has every year they have a Blog Elevated community, but then they also have a group for the people who are actually going, and you can talk to people in this group. So it's a really great way, even if you are an introvert, even if it's an online conference, try to find a way to connect with other bloggers. The other thing you can do is to connect with speakers. And this is one of the things that's been so great for me today about the summit is that we have some of our speakers who have joined the group and they're answering questions. They're getting right in there and being personal with people. They are taking the time to do that. And it benefits you as a speaker, of course, because you're working on your platform. You're connecting with people who might become your super fans, who might later purchase a product. But I can say as a speaker, yeah, that's in the back of my mind. Like, obviously, I want to be intentional with my time. I am trying to run a business here, but at the same time, it is so cool to have people be like, I attended your session and it blew my mind. I attended your session. Here are the questions I have. Like, can we talk more? it is so fulfilling and rewarding to have that. So it's not just about like, ooh, I might make $1 from this person for 50 or whatever. Yes, it's great to think about how you can funnel people into your audience and, use that to help grow your business. But that's not why most people do it. They do it because they really do enjoy the connection. And so that's what our speakers have been doing. And the first year on Blog Elevated, actually, I was a volunteer, and a few times, I think I did this twice maybe, I introduced speakers, and I wasn't really supposed to. Like Lisa and Bobby, who were running the conference, did not know me well enough or hadn't vetted me. I mean, this is the first time I'd met them to know that I could do that or would be willing to. But I guess someone had been assigned, and they were really nervous about speaking on stage. And I was like, I don't care. Put me up there. I'll introduce somebody that I don't know. And I remember introducing Holly Homer, and I can't remember who else I introduced, but I definitely introduced Holly. I do remember that because I remember finding the fun fact of how many, I think I asked her how many URLs she owned, because she had said she was a URL hoarder, where she was constantly buying up domain names. And I don't remember her exact answer, but I think she said that she has more domain names than shoes. So, take that for what it's worth. But a few years later, when I was starting the podcast in 2015, so 2 years later, after going to my first conference, I was in a completely different place. And those connections I'd made with the speakers, so I really connected with Rachel Matthews, even though I didn't even get to go to her session that first year because I was a volunteer, I had to go to a different session. But Holly and Eric Tung, who's a Twitter expert. I'm trying to think what other speakers. Let's see, Angela England, who I still collaborate with. A lot of the speakers I connected with. And I didn't go to the conference thinking like, ooh, I need to come out getting something from these people. But it's just a natural thing that you should make connections. If you're able to connect with the speakers, it's fantastic because maybe you can interview them. Maybe you can connect and collaborate with them a few years down the line. I actually worked with Holly on some things. And these are things that I think it's very obvious when people go to a conference and their intent is to use people. And that's not what I mean. I mean intentionally connecting. Okay. And I do think there's a difference. And I have gone to another conference where, I'm going to tell the story. I don't know that anyone listening has been to this conference, but I went to one conference and there was a guy who made it his goal to learn everybody's name. And everybody really loved this. And, I didn't. And the reason was because there were a couple of times I was in conversations with people talking, and this guy would come interrupt your conversation, not necessarily very politely, to get your name so he could do his thing. And what ended up happening is that, they celebrated this guy. They brought him to the stage. All these people connected and celebrated. And then anyway, I had to kind of unfollow the things he was doing because it drove me so crazy that I felt like, to me, it seemed, and maybe it wasn't, but to me, it seemed very, I can't think of the word. His goal was to meet some end of his, that it was not necessarily about knowing all the people's names, because if he really cared about our names, like he might have been less rude, interrupting conversations that people were having. It just didn't seem very authentic, I guess, is one thing I can say to me. And, he may have been, and it just may have come off wrong to me, but I do think that there is a way that people get smarmy at these events where they're just trying to use somebody. And I never really go into conferences thinking that, like, how can I piggyback off of this and use that? But I do make natural connections there. So Jillian from Milo Tree, who spoke at the Profitable Blogging Summit on the very first day, I met her at Blog Her Food, and I didn't intend to do anything. I just connected with her, thought it was so cool that she created an app because she saw a need for it to grow her Pinterest following, a pop-up for Pinterest. I connected with her, not thinking like, oh, I'm going to use her later. No, but then when I've got the summit coming on, I was like, she'd be a great person for it. She came to mind. And now we have connected and have had some really great conversations. And it's more of a collaboration. So I just want to encourage you guys to think about, are there ways you can connect with the speakers? And if you're a speaker at a conference, I want to encourage you to connect with the attendees. And that was one of the things that was really disappointing to me about the Mediavine conference, because I had Piper, who is nursing, and the hotel was not always at the conference center. Like, I had to Uber back and forth. It was really stressful for me, and I didn't connect with people I wanted to, because I didn't want to I never want to come off as like that speaker who doesn't have time for people, because honestly, like I go to a conference, even if I'm speaking, I'm there learning, I'm in the sessions. And that was something that impressed me also about Blog Her Food when I went in August and spoke there. Carla Hall, who I love, Hootie Hoo from, she was on Top Chef and is on The Dish, I think is the name. We don't have regular TV if you don't know this, so we don't watch any TV. But I love Carla, and she spoke, and she's a huge superstar, and she also went to sessions. I saw her with a pen and paper taking notes, and that says something. So if you are a speaker, I hope you kind of remember that you're just remember your humble roots, maybe is the way to say it, and that you can connect with people. I don't think of myself as a superstar, so it's, I just feel like it's just connecting with people. But I know from being on the other side of that when I was not even thinking about being a speaker at a conference, that when I connected with speakers, it made me feel so special to just get to have those conversations. So do that and seek that out. And thank you so much to all of the speakers for the summit who have been doing such a rock star job of that in the Facebook group. Again, it's so neat to see those connections happening, and I just love it. It's one of the things I love about the Profitable Blogging Summit. Hey, have you signed up yet? It's not over. If it's not past April 26th, you can go to createifwriting.com/PBS17. Okay, and the last one, and this is where I really want to hammer hard, but not for long, because this is easy, okay? When you go to a conference or a live event or, virtual summit, I think most people take notes, right? You have a notebook, you take notes, or you're on your laptop and you're taking notes. But sometimes what happens, and this has happened to me, I have a notebook full of notes I've taken at conferences, and I shut those notebooks when they're done, and they sit on a shelf in my room, and I don't go back to them. And I want to figure out a system for figuring that out, like maybe putting Post-it notes, like talking about this here. So if I want to go back and refer, I can, because right now it's just like a bunch of spiral notebooks, because that's what I like to write in, but it's not helpful for applying. So what I've started to do when I go to a conference, or if I'm doing, a workshop, any kind of training, if I'm doing a course, an online course, even, I will have one page for the notes that I'm taking. And then I also have a separate page that is action items. So it's like a to-do list. And what I do is I'll be taking notes for the different sessions or the different modules of the course or the different pieces of whatever event it is that I'm attending. And all through, I might have different pages for each session, but that one action list stays the same, and I just keep a running tally. And then when I get home, or, get back to the room at night, if I'm in a hotel and have some time, I will look at those things and decide what needs to come first and put the list in order and actually take action. So I really want to encourage you guys to try this method. And, if you're using a computer to take notes, then maybe make it a separate document, because it is separate. So the notes you're taking from a speaker are things that inspire you, or maybe they teach you. But this other list is a running list of the things you learned throughout that you want to apply. And then when you have time to apply them, you need to kind of put them in order for what should come first. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. You could go to whatever's going to bring you in the most return first, or you could do something that is going to be working in the background the whole time you are doing other things. So for example, like if SEO is like a slow game, like I could set up my SEO now, and that would be helpful, because then, maybe a little bit later it'll be working better, or Pinterest, because it takes pins a while to take off typically. I could go pin those so that they could be, working in the background the whole time. Or I could try to dust off a product that I haven't promoted in a while and start promoting that immediately, so that I can actually start bringing in income immediately while I build that other thing. So if you're thinking about building something totally new, if you start with that, then all the other things that could be, in the background, like maybe you have Facebook ads that you finally set up to grow your list that are running in the background to grow your list while you are working on that next project. So then when the next project's done, you have a bigger email list. So think about what should go first, what the natural order is. And sometimes, some things have to come first. Like if you're building a funnel toward a course, maybe you need a couple blog posts about it, and then you need like a free course or a free offering, a free workshop, and then maybe you need like a cheaper book or something more entry level, and then building that into the paid course. And so sometimes there's a really obvious order that has to take place, but if there isn't one, then I would suggest starting with either what's going to bring in some kind of result quicker, or something that's going to be running in the background to make everything work better in the long run. So those are kind of two different looks, but just some encouragement for what you can do to take action. Yes, that's it. Don't just learn, apply, connect, and move forward. The last couple of weeks I've done, other than my images podcast episode, I've done some episodes that are kind of like no hoarding. So the first one was that I talked about don't hoard content, where that's not how I said it in the post, but that's kind of how I'm looking back now at what I've talked about, where I talked about stop creating content. Don't create content, promote what you already have, and don't just keep putting out there new content that you're not actually promoting. And then I talked about don't hoard courses, like stop buying courses if you're not actually using the ones you have. And I talked to you guys last week in episode 98 about making lists of the courses you've actually purchased and a plan. Like, here is the date, here's the month I'm going to finish that course. And now I'm kind of talking about don't hoard knowledge, because if you just keep going to conferences and live events and webinars and workshops and buying books and soaking in knowledge, I'm a nerd, you guys, I'm a sponge. I want to just soak in the knowledge. But if I just do it and don't apply, what is it good for? So I want to shake you up and say, it's kind of like stop buying courses, don't hoard the knowledge that you have from these conferences, from live events, from summits. You need to make an action plan, order it in a way that makes sense, and then set out a timeline to actually do it. So that's what I'm going to leave you guys with today. And I hope that's encouraging. I really hope that you're attending the Profitable Blogging Summit, because the sessions are really, really incredible. And it's not just my words, that people in the summit community are talking about how fantastic it is. And I know interviewing people, getting to do the sessions, it was so hard not to take notes. It was such good stuff. So please sign up for that. creativewriting.com/PBS17. There's still 3 more days as you are getting this, the last couple of days of the summit. It runs through April 26th. If you sign up later than that, you'll just get directed to the Profitable Summit Hangout, Profitable Blogging Summit Hangout, which is our Facebook group, and we're going to keep that active through the year. We might do some little mini conferences. We're not sure what we're going to do next, but you can still connect with the community. And again, a good thank you for our sponsor, Ambition Ally, the makers of Pop-Up Ally Pro. So go support our sponsor for supporting the show, you guys. You can find them at ambitionally.com/Kirsten. Last 2 weeks to do a review on iTunes, send me a screenshot, and let me know what you want. So take the survey at creativewriting.com/2017 survey. Thank you to Jasmine Commerce of JasmineCommerceMusic.com for the music for this show. And talking about legal things, it's so nice to have music that I can use legally in the show that is wonderful and not just random music I found or random music that like 3 different podcasts are using. So thank you so much, Jasmine. You guys go support her. Send her some love. Her music is fantastic. JasmineCommerceMusic.com. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you go out and take action. Even now, take action from this podcast. Don't hoard knowledge. Go do something about it. And I hope you have an inspired week.